this thing on? All right, here we go.
Open your beer. It's not a contest, just open it.
Can't believe you drink beer that's a twist off.
Look, man, that was not loud at all. Let's see if I can make mine louder. There we go.
You're a pro.
I've opened many of these in my day. San Antonio has come and gone already. I can't believe there's only 3 weeks left of the season.
Yeah, it kind of flew by.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how that happens when you're not in it.
I know, the summer seems so long when you're marching, and then you're just going about your life, and the summer just happens, and you're like, holy crap. Then it's already like the third to last week of the season. Atlanta's in like 4 days from now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. Today is a little different than before, than our past episodes actually, just because Evan is not with us today. He couldn't make it up. He did watch the San Antonio Regional, as I did, with today's co-host, Aaron Bailie, who we've had on the podcast before. It was like our third one ever. Mm-hmm. We sat you down and let you kind of walk us through your history and the activity and your experiences at the Bluecoats and the Grassmen.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. So we figured I needed a guest to talk about San Antonio. Evan couldn't make it, so we got him today. So welcome back to El Show.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. So before we go any further, just make sure, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media, as in Instagram and Facebook. It's all just Aged Out Podcast. Super easy to find. And so with that out of the way, let's get into what we liked, didn't like, what we thought about the regional. I think it's a good year for drum corps.
I agree.
I said it in Evan and mine's early season impressions podcast that this season there's like 7 or 8 groups that are all just really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like we're back to drum corps. Like sometimes last year I felt like I was watching BOA a little bit.
Minus the uniforms.
Yeah.
We still got some work to do on the uniform.
Still got some weird uniforms, but I feel like we're kind of back on track. Like doing cool things.
Yeah. The corps that I'm most excited about are the cadets. And I've told you this, I know, a billion times. Evan and I have talked about it. The cadets show this year reminds me of the cadets shows that I grew up watching and idolizing. Like the 03, 2000, those early 2000s years, late 90s, even early 90s. Like that run and gun. They have so much aggression and energy in the show. It's just exciting. And the one weird twist is they have a 4-person, like, hymnal vocal section, but I actually like the way they use it most of the times. When it's by itself, I'm not a huge fan, but when it's used within the horn line, like those sounds are used together, it actually sounds pretty cool to me. I don't know. I'm
kind of torn on the whole vocalist and DCI idea. I think I feel like a lot of corps feel like, oh, well, since that's the precedent now, we have to have a vocalist in our show.
Yeah, there are a lot of groups that have vocalists.
Some of them are bad.
There's Bluecoats have a vocalist. The Bluecoats vocalist is really good.
I think that should be the standard. Is Bluecoats are nailing it with a vocalist.
They're using it well.
And if
I like them. They've got a vocalist this year. The cadets have vocals. Did Vanguard have any vocals or BD? I feel like one of those two.
I know Crossman did.
Crossman did, yeah.
I don't remember who else.
I feel like there's just a handful. It's too much.
Scattered.
I'm not a huge fan. But all right, that's enough about just drum corps. Let's talk about marching percussion. So I didn't really agree with most of where the drum judge, whose name is right in front of me. What was it? Ostemore. He wasn't judging when I was marching. I've never heard of this guy.
I want to say it was one of the years I marched.
Where he first started showing up?
I started seeing his name pop up.
Yeah, he but I just didn't really agree with a lot of what he said. Aaron and I watched the regional together, and we decided at the beginning of it to create our own rankings, like where we would place everyone, hearing everything on the stream. And I've got mine in front of me. I don't know I think Aaron might have left his at home, so we'll just...
No, I totally, I stopped doing that halfway through the regional.
Oh, well, I guess I'm just a super nerd. Whatever. So I'll go over what my rankings were at some point, but the judge, the finishing placements ended up being, he had Vanguard in first, BD in second, Crown in third.
Whoa, is that right?
Yeah, Vanguard was first.
Okay, yeah.
BD second, Crown third, Cavies fourth, Bluecoats fifth. The Cadets were sixth, Boston was seventh, Blue Knights 8, Phantom 9, Crossman was 10. Spirit was 11, actually, which we'll talk about that in a couple minutes here. And then Blue Stars were 12th. Man, he dogged them hard. And then 13 was Colts. All right, we're not going to go back any farther than that. But let's talk about those groups up towards the top. Actually, rewind that. Let's do the bottom ones, like the Spirit placing 11th, Crossman 10.
Oh, yeah. Spirit is...
This is a good year for them.
They sound a lot better than they normally do this year.
I think this might be the best battery they've had probably in the last 4 summers. Like, just the sound quality is better, just the level of clarity they're achieving. I got to see them live in Kentucky, in Alexandria, Kentucky, the weekend before the regional. Mm-hmm. And Evan and I were both standing there in the lot watching them, and we were both just like, this is a good year for them. Like, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, and so seeing them finish 11th, whereas I don't know where they've been finishing drum-wise in previous summers, but it's good to see them be in that like top 12 ranking at a regional because they haven't been there in quite a while.
Yeah, and like they're definitely doing they're doing some more this year.
Do you think they were better than Blue Stars? Because he had Blue Stars below them at 12.
I don't know. I feel like Spirit is still kind of like a little rough around the edges. Like
yeah,
they're maybe not
less
as refined.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Like
to use
they
for
don't
it.
have maybe Eric Shriver, who we both idolize here.
Correct.
Standing in front of him.
Shrive's the man.
But yeah, I don't know. It was hard to hear Blue Stars on the field. So,
but we've talked about that before on here too. That's been the case for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
They, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the way they hit the drum. Well, I mean, it has to be because I know how Shriver. I don't know if Shriver tunes the snare drums, but
and now they're on Yamaha, right? Or did they go to Mapex?
I'm not sure what they use actually. Comment on the video and let us know if you know.
I feel like I want to say it's Yamaha
what they
because
use.
I was jealous because it was after I left that they switched.
Did you
from
still have Mapex?
Yeah, I marched Mapex.
I had Pearl when I was there. Thumbs up. Maybe it was rough on the field or something, or I'm not sure. Because obviously we've talked about they don't cut through the horn line a whole lot, and there weren't really many exposed moments either for us to get a super good read on them. They had 1 or 2 features where we got a good idea of what they were working with, but typically you work on your features more than you do the stuff buried by the horn line. So maybe all those notes they were throwing, it did seem a little dirtier to me than in videos I've watched too. They've seemed like they've been a little dirtier than they have the last couple of years.
Now I heard a rumor. I can't. I don't know whether it's true or false, but
you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, part of their design process is writing the drill first and then writing the battery book to the drill. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I feel like that is a weird way to
go about it.
Because
typically all the music is figured out first, right?
Yeah.
So they know, like, hey, we have a percussion moment here at this part of the show. Make sure
they're
they're
completely wrong. Don't quote me there.
Yeah, well, the facts don't matter here on
we'll
this podcast.
We'll just cut all of this out.
Yeah, right? No, we're not.
Yeah, we're not going to cut it out.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's debatable. Who's better, Spirit or Blue Stars? I don't like giving the benefit of the doubt because of a group's history. I've said it already that I think the Blue Stars might be a little dirtier at this point in the season than I've heard them be in the last couple of years. Maybe that's what it comes from, and Spirit's having a good year. It could have just been a bad run. It's one show. We'll see what happens in Atlanta this weekend and see if anything flip-flops with a different judge, or we'll see. So above Spirit at 11 was the Crossman at 10, and Phantom was 9. You know, actually, he has Crossman at 9 in achievement and Phantom 10 in achievement. So Crossman were cleaner according to him, which was what I was about to say. Crossman are definitely cleaner than Phantom is.
Yeah.
I think Phantom's book is definitely harder. I mean, just like last year, Rob Ferguson's writing crazy amounts of notes, high note density. It's fast tempos, so it makes sense.
He doesn't write anything like abnormal, just everything really fast.
Exactly. So it's like it makes perfect sense why the judge would have Crossman below Phantom in content, but from an achievement standpoint, I 100% agree that Crossman are cleaner, or were cleaner that night over the stream. And Crossman have a lot of exposed moments for their battery. There's a lot of exposure, which is really cool. Nothing, Peanut Gallery?
Yeah, I can't get over that big quad moment that Phantom has That
the 15 quads.
like I think maybe the idea is cool, but
in theory,
the notes that they're playing as a 15-man quad line, they aren't achieving, and I just don't like it if it's not clean.
yeah. It just seems gimmicky. It's like, what can we do just to do it? It just seems like they're doing it just to do it. I don't know any other way to say it besides that. It's just, I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't sound good. And there's a real disparity, and maybe this was by design. Obviously, you have your quad line. I think they have 5 quads, and there's 9 snare drums, 8 or 9, one of the two. And at one point, after everybody puts the quads on, they split into 2 groups of quads in that front tarp, like in front of that prop in the pit. And like the right group plays something, and the left group plays something. And there's such, to me, it comes off as, all right, the 5 quad drummers plus the best snare drummer or 2 on quads are in this group, and the rest of the snare line is over here on this group.
It's like when BD had all the snares.
You could tell which one was the snare line, and you could tell which one wasn't. And maybe that was intentional. There's some conceptual show design reason for that to be the case, but I just don't think it's paying off in the way they thought it might. Whereas the Cavaliers gimmick of the quad feature with the marching Xylos
I thought that was pretty cool.
Is awesome. We'll get to that later when we get to the Cavaliers, but
Michael's telling me about that, and I'm like, okay, there's no reason to march that instrument ever.
He hadn't seen it until we watched the regional.
I saw it, and I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Oh, yeah, it's really, really cool. It's creative. I would have never thought to have, I never thought I was going to sit down and watch a drum corps show this summer, and that was going to happen. Which is, it's really, you think you kind of been around the block, you've seen a ton of shows, you kind of know what you're going to get. Then that happened, and I was like, wait, what a minute? What?
It's like, all right, take out the VHS from 1977.
Mm-hmm. It's a really cool moment. It might be my favorite moment in all of DCI this year. Because now I've seen the top 16. That might be my favorite moment in the entirety of the activity this summer, as of right now. Obviously, groups will add new endings to their shows and all that stuff, but
yeah,
it's a good time. So Phantom in 9. Let's see.
Blue Knights.
Whoa, wait a minute. I just got to the Blue Star score again, the recap score. So they got 12th overall in drums and 11 in content. So Spirit and them were flopped, either one, in content. They had him 13th in achievement. That means he had, who was 12?
Colts,
he had Colts above
Spirit,
them in clarity.
Crossman,
Yeah.
Phantom, all of them.
He had Colts above them in clarity, which they must have just had a bad run, because I do not think that the Colts would be cleaner on the move or just in general.
I don't know. They've kind of been for a few years now. They're sneaking in there.
Yeah, maybe I'll give them a look. I'll check some more videos out. I need to see what's going on there then. If you're giving them the Aaron Bailie stamp of approval.
I didn't say that. Nobody gets that.
All right, so moving on, Phantom in 9. Then you have Blue Knights have 8th place across the board, content and achievement, as well as obviously overall.
I'm kind of surprised.
They're that low or that high?
Well, I guess I imagine that they would just be keep on climbing every year, at breakneck speed.
I agree, but
I don't know if
who are they supposed to beat?
Maybe it's a problem
with
Boston.
I could see an argument where they should be
just
above
keeping
Boston.
vets or something. I don't know.
Maybe, but so Boston was in 7th, right above them, with 7s across all the sub captions, and everyone's on the Boston hype train, and they have been since they came out swinging last year and had a way better year last year, across the entire drum corps, and everyone got behind. Everyone loves an underdog story. I never bought into it last year. I think the drum line is clearly better this year than it was last year. But I think 7th place is probably right about where they should be. Yeah. Some might hype them. I've seen comments online and friends of mine talking about how phenomenal they are. And I'm like, yeah, they're good, but the book is very samey from phrase to phrase. A lot of the writing is similar across the board. Now they have a couple motifs that kind of stay persistent for the entire show. But I mean, what do you think? I again still hate the snare drum tuning, but
I think I don't want to discount what they're doing because they're playing really well, and I think they're playing some pretty good content as well. I just don't think I really like the sound that they make
when they hit the drum
as a drum line. Yeah, just
Yeah.
seems like a very harsh kind of sound. Maybe it's the tuning. I don't know.
I think the tuning hurts the snare drums a lot. I think it's super choked off. Although
Super dry.
it was a little less dry in San Antonio, I felt, than it has been in the first few weeks of seeing them. And like you said a second ago, you said they're still playing really well. That's 100% true. Like once you get to the top 8 groups here, 6 groups, they're all incredible drum lines. Like we nitpick and pick apart well, this is kind of bad. This sound quality is a little weird. They're still the best in the world at what they're doing.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I
would
mean?
not want to be the judge that has to put them in order.
You and I said that multiple times. We're doing our rankings, at least him for the first half of the show, and it's how do you pick? Now you hear a lot more when you're on the field right in front of them, clearly, but I would not want to be a percussion judge this summer because it's
a lot of good drum lines.
It's a lot of awesomeness going on, a lot of clarity, a lot of really good writing. So everything we're picking at right now is obviously just very subjective, opinionated, but that's the point of doing this. So Blue Knights 8. There was something about them I just remembered. Do you remember we couldn't hear a lot of the drum line, even in exposed moments? Mm-hmm. Did you recall that?
I do remember that.
We were talking about that. I don't know what it was.
And maybe that was the show when the internet was acting up or the live stream.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but we both pointed out it had to just be
anytime.
the live stream.
Yeah, anytime the horn line was playing though, we couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear
Blue Knights
even the
battery.
rim shots. Usually rim shots and cut through really well. We couldn't even hear rim shots from the snare line, and I know they're clean enough to cut through that because they're one of my favorite groups that I've seen so far. Let me pull up my notes real quick on them from the show. Let's see, Blue Knights. Oh, they're bringing back the on-field warm-up. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen a group that they started playing an exercise they play on the field before they perform.
I mean, honestly, it makes sense because you warm up.
You have a half an hour downtime.
You hop on a bus and you drive over to the stadium.
Yep.
You're completely cold by the time you go on. Or I guess I'm thinking finals, but San Antonio is not much different.
Yeah. I've got. I made a note here to talk about their they're the most dynamic drum line. They play the most musically dynamic. Is the right way to say it?
Yeah.
I've
always loved that about them.
Their rolls start at nothing, and they get all the way up to their eyeballs, and it's just they're warm, and it just sounds awesome. There was one specific roll in their run through that you didn't hear it start, and it just came out of nowhere and just was so clean and warm and just smacked you in the face. And I think that was through the horn line too. It was in the beginning, first 3 or 4 minutes, comes out of nowhere, and it's just the perfect crescendo like that. They talk about the exponential curve they talk about of that's how you want your rolls to crescendo.
They actually did it.
They actually did. It was
the
perfect.
first drum line ever to
I don't know what
play a bell curve crescendo.
I don't know about the first, but there's some tasty crescendo rolls going on at that group. We already talked about Boston. I wrote down, what did I say about Boston? They had a very clean start. The drums did seem not quite as dry. Their book's pretty difficult. The new ending to their show was dumb.
Oh, that was where they get
Was
rescued
found or was here or something.
and then they leave.
So yeah,
BAC
they have
was here.
they right on the field at one point lost, and then they have found under it, and the new ending. After their old ending, they continue on and they all scatter drill and stuff, and
They're all drowning because they're in the ocean.
Mosey over to the beach, and they're all in the end zone basically, where they're beach tarp laid down, and then they have was here, and I was just I guess they were rescued at that point, and obviously the island is still there, but I was this is stupid.
Well,
Your
I guess
old
you're just
ending-
not an intellectual then.
I guess the old ending was better to me.
I don't even know what the old ending was. I haven't been keeping
Well, it
up
was
as much.
Where it was the impact before that.
Before they kind of restarted.
Before they restarted and did some more stuff. Yeah, it was not a fan. Boston. I didn't hear enough of Blue Knights, not enough of it cut to know whether those should be swapped or not.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think Boston should be above the Cadets, who are the next one in 6th, but we'll get to that in a second. Just to wrap up Boston, they did have, and I actually have a note of this here from the stream. they have a lot of exposed moments for the Battery, and there were a handful of phrases like in exposed moments they didn't finish.
Mm-hmm.
So I first thought the judge was going to put them higher than 7th because the hype train, they've been scoring pretty well in percussion so far this season. It just seemed like it might have been an off night for them.
Maybe.
Just because it was not finishing a lot of phrases, just not what I had heard previously from earlier in the summer. So yeah, Cadets in 6th. What do you think about that?
Well, I got to check out who was in
5th. The home team's in 5th.
my boys.
What was the spread between Bluecoats and Cadets? Coast had a
17.35 to 17.2.
So it's pretty close.
So
Splitting-
0.15
Splitting
of a
hairs
point.
at that point.
I don't know. I'm torn because, Cadets came out on the field during the live stream, and I think we both agreed that it was clearly, an up to the quality that was happening in the drum lines.
Oh, 100%.
It's like it was a jump, I think.
They have a big long feature. It's like 60 seconds long, like pretty close to the pit, kind of directly behind them. And you looked at me and were like, "Are they going to tick yet?" Like it's like
I
a
remember
60-second long ram, just like a traditional Cadets Tom Ungst in your face, just aggressive ram.
Like, come on, guys, it's time to tick
And
sometime.
he looked at me like halfway through and was like, "Are they going to tick at some point?" It's like, I don't think so. This is just it was locked in. That their whole run was locked in. Like every exposed moment just sounded good.
There just wasn't anything that was really ugly.
No, yeah,
I
there
don't
was. It was really, really solid. I like their show a lot. I think I said this at the very beginning of the podcast. Like their show is a callback to the Cadet shows of old, minus the hymnal singing stuff sprinkled in there. Like it's fast tempos, hard drill. It's aggressive, tons of energy. The drum line's in your face at multiple moments.
I wish I could relate, because I never watched those old Cadets lines. I didn't know what drum corps was.
Oh man, I'll give you a history lesson and we'll go watch a bunch of YouTube videos from like '02. So let's see, Cadets in 6th. I'm gonna go over where I would have ranked everybody at the end of this. I do not agree with the Cadets being in 6th. So I had Bluecoats in 5th, which is where did I put them? I don't want to reveal it yet. Okay.
I don't know. I think that might be pretty accurate.
I was getting ready to say
as far as where I don't understand the Ozdemore gave them 5th in content and achievement, and I feel like maybe the content's probably a little higher and achievement might be a little lower.
Maybe, yeah, I could agree
I don't know,
with
because
that.
I watched them at rehearsal a few weeks ago in Kentucky, and they play a lot of stuff really well when they do play together.
Correct.
They make really good sounds.
I agree.
I just think they let stuff go. And I don't know. I think the worst sounding stuff was when they were at the front of the field and probably being picked up by mics.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes me wonder, like how many problems are being added by the drum line being picked up on the mics.
Yeah.
And there's just, another factor that can make them sound bad.
Yeah.
Or they're just playing dirty, but
Yeah, I mean, halfway through the show, I think at the halfway point, him and I were talking, and they have a lot of
they came out like really hot.
Yes.
In like the first minute or so of
yeah,
the show.
they did.
Like I was super excited about
And that's
it.
what I was getting at. Like they have a lot of exposed moments. The drum line is exposed a lot in the show this year, and it's almost like I feel like I'm flipping a coin every time they're about to have an exposed moment. I was like, all right, heads it's going to sound amazing, and tails it's going to sound like just gray the whole time
Yeah, it's
and
weird.
not
There's,
locked in.
There's kind of like
Like
not
it wasn't like
a middle ground. It's
Yeah.
either really good or like
Exactly.
pretty bad.
Because typically at this point in the season, you'll have like most phrases of the top groups are locked in there. You'll have like little things. Somebody will rip out of a roll at the end, or the tackle will be off by somebody here, and so they have to recover over a count or two. But there were like whole phrases that were just out,
Yeah.
that were just not up to the quality of the phrases they nailed. And when they nailed phrases, don't get me wrong, and they sounded great when they nailed them. But it was like I just felt like I was flipping a coin every time you'd see, okay, camera goes to the drum line. Let's see if we're going to get good Bluecoats drum line or gray Bluecoats drum line.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost think that is a better problem to have potentially than if you have like we start together, somebody like ticks a flam drag here or like gaps a space or something like this or whatever.
Just passing ticks
plays
around.
a little too loud because that's just little mental errors. If the whole phrase is gray, that's something you can address like, hey, you're hearing this wrong from your spot in the drill set. You need to adjust in this manner, and it could just lock it in that way.
Yeah.
Or just more and more reps they're going to get over the next 3 weeks. Things like that can just lock in as you get more accustomed to what are my listening responsibilities in these forums? Who's in charge of the time? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think they're going to get cleaner. Obviously, everyone's going to continue to get better over the next 3 weeks. But yeah, I agree with you. 5th might be that night at least where I would probably put them based on what I saw. So after them, had the Cavaliers with that awesome quad feature. Warms my soul. That Cavaliers.
I can't stand the splits.
I know. Macintosh is in love with the snare splits, and I'm beating a dead horse because Evan and I both have said this on here so many times, but it's just they have like a 45-second snare feature towards the beginning of their show, and that's like a snare drummer's like dream come true.
Yep.
It's like, hey, we're going to put you in the front of the field. We're going to give you 45 seconds to play the coolest snare drum feature you can write that we can handle to play.
Only thing better would be if you just don't move the whole time either.
They don't move the whole time. They do some body, but there's no drill in it. Like they do some like body leaning away from each other, and they chose to choose 20 seconds worth of snare splits up and down. And I appreciate it in the sense that I know it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that is honestly, out of all the groups that have tried to play snare splits, the best I've heard them sound.
I don't know. I think, if you're splitting like singles, that's one thing. But I think if you're just splitting threes, then you should go play bass drum.
Yeah.
And that's not like a diss on bass drum. Like I wish I would have played bass drum because that would have been awesome. But I hate hearing it in a snare line.
It's just every pair of sticks is different. Everybody's hands are different sizes.
Like we're gonna hear all your 9 different snare tunings.
It's impossible. it is almost impossible. You can get 9 or 8 snare drums really close drum to drum tuning wise, but I've never heard them perfect. I've never heard anyone get them absolute like top head tension perfect across the board and equal, bottom heads exactly the same pitch.
Or you could just tune them purposely, like just chromatically or something.
Like bass drums, yeah. No, I just feel like it was a missed opportunity. And I still, again, appreciate it because it is hard what they're doing. And it does sound decent. But I just feel like it could have been something so much cooler. Like a moment akin to that quad Xylo feature. I'm not saying you got to have a keyboard out there with them, but it could have been a feature moment like that sticks out in everyone's mind and they remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I at least want to clarify that we're not, discounting the work that the members are putting in because they're killing it. But,
well, of course, I said a minute ago, when you get to we're nitpicking at little stuff. All of these groups are the best on the planet at what they're doing. We're splitting hairs at this point. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, all these drum lines play differently. Their techs are teaching differently, so different techniques and styles. Like, yeah, we've said before, we're not dissing on anyone's effort. Like,
we just hate everyone equally.
Exactly. No, this is just we're analyzing. We're giving analysis. So
I did think Cavaliers drumline is super strong this year.
No, they deserve top 4, top 5, 100%. There was talk at one point, and I would have agreed with it earlier in the season, like maybe a drum trophy a year.
Like when was the last time we saw a Cavaliers line
this
of
good?
This caliber, yeah.
2011. When they won a drum trophy.
Probably.
Like this is the best Spirit drum line there's been in the last 4 years. It's probably the best Cavaliers drum line in the past 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're always good, but this is like a different level of greatness. I think they're on the path to achieve by the end of the season. Even if they don't win the drum trophy, it's just great. I like the writing, 98% of the writing. So after Cavies, actually, let's look at the breakdown. They were in 4th overall, 4th in achievement, 3rd in content. So this is a point of debate here. Crown was in 3rd, which I also wouldn't agree with, and I'll talk about in a second once we're done with this rundown. But he had Crown winning achievement over Cavies and Cavi's winning content over Crown. I would have just had Crown above them in both categories, unless it's front ensemble related.
Is Ozdemore the Rhythm X guy?
That's
Vibraphone,
Lightsky.
I think? That's Lightsky?
That's Lightsky.
Okay.
He was the ex-alum. Is the ex-alum. He didn't die. He was an ex-alum in his day. No. But yeah, I think Crown I think overall is better than the Cavaliers. Fourth place in content for Crown in general is low.
Yeah.
I've seen their book up close and personal, like right in front of me, multiple times. I know, and I'm going to sound like I'm biased at this point. I talked to their staff, their caption head. I know him. I marched with him. I know the kind of, like, their book is full of hand speed changes, dynamic demand. Their drill's not super easy. Like, to me, speaking on just drum lines, Crown's drum line is better than Cavi's drum line to me.
I would agree.
On just the eye test and ear test. Now, this difference in content could be front ensemble related. And as someone who studied percussion,
if I would have paid any attention to any of these front ensembles, maybe I would have an answer.
I know. I'm so brainwashed at this point. When I watch drum corps shows, if the drum line's playing, like, that's what I'm listening to.
That's what the show is.
to me, really. I mean, it's just, I guarantee if a lot of guard people watch a drum corps show, they're going to notice the guard 95% of the time if the guard is doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just nature of the game. That's the only explanation I could think of as to why Cavies would be ahead of them in content. It's got to be front ensemble related.
I remember we were in 2015 at the Bluecoats. We were getting knocked for our content all summer because we picked a show that was a lot of minimalistic music, and there's only so much you can do with a percussion book when you're playing in that sort of genre. But
yeah.
So if that is what it is, I feel for him. But
yep. So Crown was in third, Cavies in fourth, like we said, and they were only separated by 0.05. So it was really, really, really close. Then they had BD in second, which I 100% do not agree with, and Vanguard in first. Pretty handily, too. Like, Vanguard had an 18.3, and BD had a 17.85. Like, that's a big gap.
Yeah, I think my issue was, kind of like Blue Knight's drumline with BD. I couldn't hear the drumline the whole show. Whenever we could, they just sounded gray. Yeah,
they're not clean. Everything I've seen of them up to this point, they're not that clean.
Now they're probably going to just,
peak at the
do
right
what they
time.
normally do and play clean at finals,
and peak right there. But
in San Antonio, I think it was a different story.
I think Crown and Cavies were both better than BD that night.
I think so, based off of what we could hear and see.
Yeah. I think you looked at me halfway through BD's show and was like, do they even have a drum line? Because they have like a small feature in the beginning, and then you literally, there's no exposed moments.
It's like you just can't hear a drum line at all.
Yeah. They don't expose them. They're not cutting through anything. Like, they're just kind of there. And
they look really good, though.
God, they move so well. It's unreal. It's unreal. But I'd have them in fifth at that regional. Fourth, maybe ahead of Bluecoats.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
My top three, personally, would be, not in this order, Crown, Vanguard, Cadets. If I had to pick a top three from that night, I'd probably put Crown in first, Vanguard second, and Cadets third.
I think it's definitely a toss-up for me between Vanguard and Crown. Because it seemed to me like, I think I heard some fuzz here and there from Vanguard.
Yeah, they weren't perfect. Nobody was perfect. Nobody had a perfect run.
I feel like I heard less of that from Crown.
Crown had less ticks than anybody else.
Yeah.
There were less little tiny things or rolls that started gray and then locked in, or like it was. And something that Crown does, Crown has an unmatched uniformity in their sound quality across their battery.
They sound crystal clear.
Their clarity, when they're clean, it's a much more mature, clear, warm sound than when Bluecoats are clean or when Cavies are clean. You can tell, like, they have 9 snares or 8? I don't remember. I think it's 9.
Somewhere between 5 and 10.
Correct. You're an idiot.
Thank you.
The only times I've ever heard lines sound like that when they have that level of clarity is when they're all hitting the drum the same way. And Bluecoats achieve clarity at times. Crown achieves clarity, and Crown's just sounds clearer. Like it's just pristine. Their clean is cleaner than everybody else's clean at this point in the season.
I mean, I can't disagree with that.
I mean, it's just everybody that I've talked to, friends of mine that did the activity at the upper level, like it's just the consensus.
I will say though, I haven't seen Vanguard live, so
correct,
but I can't really draw conclusions there. But
Vanguard's snare line sounds like Vanguard's like a Rennick snare line, except for 08 Phantom because that was just immaculate by like July 3rd. If you've not seen Phantom 08's drum line, go to YouTube. You're already on YouTube. After this is over, look up Phantom 2008, and it is...
Yeah, it's right before Phantom 09 and right after Phantom 07.
I'm never having you on here again.
It's cool. Check it out.
No, yeah. Rennick does what Rennick does, and his system is refined. His kids that come through the system stay in it the whole time, their entire careers. They know what's expected. They all hit the drum the same way. It's just a different kind of sound quality. It's warm, but it's less... I prefer Crown's quality over Vanguard's quality.
I think so, too. And that might, I've always just grown up on this side of the U.S. and being a fanboy of Bluecoats and not so much the West Coast, so I will admit that I'm biased completely.
Yeah. My top three in this order: Crown, Vanguard, Cadets. I think I had Bluecoats in fourth and BD in fifth when I finally ranked everybody. Yeah, let's say I had Crown, Vanguard, Cadets, then Bluecoats in fourth, Cavies in fifth, Blue Devils in sixth, then Boston in seventh, BK in eighth, I had Crossman in 9, Blue Stars 10, followed by Phantom, then Mandarins, Troopers, Spirit, and Madison. Yeah, very, very different from what this guy's top stuff sounded like. I don't know, I just can't get over. I think the St. Louis Regional was the weekend before San Antonio, and Crown beat everybody in drums. Vanguard was not there at that show, but they beat Blue Devils, Bluecoats, Cavies, and it was good because I think they deserved it. I think
too.
Alan Christensen was the judge that show. And when Prosperi's not judging, AK's word is like gospel.
Well, yeah, both of those guys.
Those are the two best percussion
like the
judges.
gold standard.
That's it. If they put you up, like, I trust their rankings of groups over anybody else's. And AK had Crown in first over BD, Bluecoats, Cavaliers, Cadets. Now again, Vanguard was not at that show, so I don't know where he would have had them in that mix. But I think it says something when AK at the first real semi-meeting that's not like San Antonio, the first big regional, being in first, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I think it bodes well for them over the rest of the season. I need to look up who's judging Atlanta, who the drum judge is, because now I'm curious. I'll have to look that up later. But, yeah. Any other thoughts?
Is that all she wrote?
Any other thoughts? What do you think of the Bluecoats show? Session 44?
I love that show. I wish I could march that show. I'm going. Put me in, coach.
Yeah, fake your birth certificate.
I'm coming out of retirement.
I think my favorite show this year right now is the Cadets show. I haven't liked the Cadets show in a while. I think since they won a gold medal.
2011?
11. I think that was the last Cadets show I really liked besides this one. It was Angels and Demons 2011? That was okay. That show was
because
awesome.
then after that was Christmas and things got weird.
My age out, they did Christmas, and that was really funny. Then it got real odd. But yeah, this is a good year for the Cadets. I think they're going to finish strong. Yeah. Cadets are throwing down. I can't say it enough.
Mike loves the Cadets.
Man, my inner child, my inner high school kid.
If you could go back and march again, would you march the Cadets instead?
Well, I was going to march the Cadets. That's where I was going to go. I wanted to march for the Cadets, but it was more so for Tom Ungst than a cadet thing. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, from a logistical standpoint, 2010, 09 was the year he left Cadets, and Colin took over. And my first summer where I was first auditioning was for 2010, and he was at the Blue Stars, which was 2 hours from my house, as opposed to Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Which
so
I
that's why
would've-
you went to Blue Stars.
Yeah, Tom Monks was the reason I went to Blue Stars, because I wanted to march for him since I was 14 years old. And I was looking at plane tickets like 8 months in advance to go to Pennsylvania to audition for the Cadets while I was at Moorhead. And then I was like, wait, they released, like, all the staff releases happened, and my buddy texted me and go, it might have actually been Evan that texted me. He goes, hey, Tom's at Blue Stars now. I was like, holy crap.
Tom, please let me march for you.
It was cool. It was really cool. Although I was really immature and young. Like, I didn't really get to talk to him. I didn't talk to him a whole lot or, like, get to know him a lot. I regret that. I wish I would have, but I was trying to not die that whole summer, so
Yep.
I wasn't doing a whole lot of talking in general.
I've been there.
Yeah. Your first summer can be rough. But, yeah, that's why I ended up at Blue Stars.
Cool story.
Yeah. So it makes me very happy to see him back at the Cadets doing what I loved watching them do all through my youth.
He just left for whenever you were able to march. And
He
now
did
he's
it for
back.
me, man. I did it 1 year and I left. Sorry, Tom. No, I didn't march anywhere in 2011, but I kind of did leave. Whoops. Oh well.
Uh-oh.
Neither here nor there. So, I think that about wraps it up.
That's all I
I
got.
just looked over my notes again from when we were watching the regional, and I think we hit everything I wanted to. BK plays great roles. Crossmen have great tap fives again.
Yep.
Cadets are throwing down.
Last year, I watched Crossman play tap fives in the lot, and I was like, wow.
That's
I never thought tap fives would be that impressive, but they really were.
And they're very rhythmically accurate when they play them.
It's like that.
There's
wow.
no slur at all in there. It's like exactly what they're supposed to sound like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yep. So let's close this thing out. We've been jabbering for about what's it been now? 43 minutes. So let's close it out. So again, thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel once again. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us, like us, or follow us on Facebook. Again, we mentioned it on the last podcast. We are actively in the process of getting our podcast to where we can have it on iTunes, so you can download it on your iPhones and laptops and all these things. So be on the lookout for that, hopefully by the end of the summer. And I think the next podcast is going to be post-finals. Yeah, I think Evan and I... What are your plans for finals?
Well, I guess I have to go now.
Oh, yeah, because your girlfriend filled a hole at Bluecoats. Duh. So he'll be there. Evan and I are probably, I think, definitely going to semis and finals. And we are going to, I think we talked about doing quarterfinals this year, too. So we'll be inside for quarters and then hanging out, doing whatever for semis and finals. So said it before, if you see us there, you want to hang out, talk to us, feel free to come up and say hi. And we'll just see everybody after finals. Peace.